Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Athletic Studio podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gordon Chommanivong.
And I'm Hollie, Bryan.
Hollie, are you feeling more confident now? I think this will be your third episode.
Yes, a little bit more confident than last time, that's for sure. The nerves have definitely been pushed out the way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How about the Office parody video?
I hated it. No, it was fine.
Yeah, some of the clients and our followers, they liked it.
Yeah, but I didn't enjoy filming it, but it's fine. You got to do what you got to do for content.
That's right. You got to
Suck
do
it
what
up.
you do for content.
Yeah.
Just like training, right? The more reps you put in, the more sets
exactly
you do.
right.
Yeah, okay. Guys, with today's episode, we want to go over advanced results tracking. So how to know if your training is actually getting you some really good results. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is on social media, there's a lot about progressive overload, right? Progressive overload, as well as doing less volume, not doing that many sets. But I know that one of our coaches had applied these methods and he's been getting some really great results, but sometimes it doesn't always go the right way, and that's where we need to make some changes. So even though you think you're doing the right things, progressive overloading, getting really strong, the client was getting really strong, and then he goes and gets a DEXA scan, and then
his results didn't match.
Yeah, he didn't gain as much muscle as he thought, and he had been trying really hard. Any experience with that, Hollie, where you've applied?
Yeah, I think especially if some clients probably as well, like same situation where they probably are getting stronger each week or each session in the gym. They're seeing their weights go up even just a little bit when they're logging their program in for the day. But then they might jump on the scanner that we have here in the studio and it might not be headed in the direction that they wanted it to. So then we just have to sit back and be like, okay, what can we change? What isn't working? And what are our next steps to go on from here?
Yeah. It wasn't really a good start with promoting us as coaches. But what we're trying to say is like results are never like linear. Like this is how we bust plateaus too, because
it happens. It happens. Like not everyone's always gonna excel all the time. So you hit a plateau, and then you see where you need to make change, and then you go from there.
And this is what this podcast is all about. This is what we assess when we hit a plateau, so we can get you moving to the next level. And this is how you can do it for yourself as well, and things to look out for, because at the end of the day, that's how you want to track your progress by. Is if you're training for weight loss, is the actual scale weight going down. It doesn't matter if you're getting stronger. If your number one goal is weight loss, like that's what you should be measuring as a priority. It's the same with like strength. It's the same with lean muscle gain. So I want to focus on one thing. So I guess the first one is when it comes specifically for that situation was when it comes to like muscle building is there's progressive overload where you're getting stronger, trying to apply more weight onto the bar each week. And then there is total volume load, which is probably more important. So that's weight on the bar times how many reps you're doing, and then times how many sets you're doing as well. Yeah. So how many sets would you normally program for a client?
Depending on the exercise, for sure, but say A's or B's, 4 sets, probably 3 sets towards the end of the program for the accessory stuff.
Yeah. So this particular client too, and it's good because we had a lot of data on him when I was helping out one of our coaches, is his first 3 to 4 months of programming. The majority of his A and B sets were 4 sets. So he was doing quite a fair few amount of sets. And then the last couple of months, probably the last 3 months as well. So let's say he's been training with us for 6 months. I know he's definitely been training us for a lot longer than that. The average probably for the A's and B's were more like 3 sets, but more focused on lifting heavier. So he was getting stronger, but and sometimes that doesn't equal to a higher total volume load if they're doing less sets.
Yeah.
For someone like you, if you're listening, that's something that you want to track, like the overall total volume load. And Hollie, would you be changing exercises every program, or would there be like certain lifts that you would keep into your program?
No, I wouldn't be changing every exercise, every program. I always keep the lifts that we are focusing on in that block, whether that be squats, deadlifts, bench press, bent over rows, overhead presses. Always keep a variation of at least a few of those in each program. If you change it, I would always just put it back in 4 to 8 weeks later just to get back on track with it. But I always keep the main compound stuff very similar, and then just it can alternate through and change it up with the accessory stuff towards the end of the program.
Yeah, a good idea to what you can do is you want to have an indicator lift for, let's say, every main muscle part. For women, it could be like a dumbbell shoulder press. For men, that could be a military press or an incline barbell press if it's for like their chest and their shoulders. And then you'd always have that exercise in every second program. So maybe no more than 4 to 6 weeks without it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that way you're doing it as frequently enough so you can see that total volume load increase over a 1, 2, 3 years time as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if your training age with the client that I'm talking about, his training age is quite high. So he's been doing probably advanced training for 4 or 5 years. So the strength gains aren't going to come as often.
Yeah, as someone who's super fresh into the gym.
Exactly. You want to take that into consideration as well. So you always want to maybe have a spreadsheet, or if you're using the app, Athletics Your Live app tracks all your total volume load.
A lot of fitness apps would track that anyway. So if you are putting it into some program system, just have a look on there, and it very well should be tracked.
Yeah, and when it comes to body composition training, if you're looking at, especially for women, if they're looking at growing their glutes, right? Like what would be some main exercises they want to keep track of?
RDLs, hip thrusts,
yeah,
squat variations, rubber back squat, hack squats.
Yeah, so if you've been training for a couple of months and you're not seeing your glutes change shape or get bigger or whatever, then you want to refer back to those exercises and maybe bring them up on the app and then look at the graph. Has these numbers actually gone up? That's obviously just one way to look at it, but then also your nutrition. Their nutrition as well, if they've been at a surplus, if they've been having enough protein, etc.
Sure. Yeah, huge.
The next thing that you can track with, or let's say advanced programming, is when it comes to more specifically weight loss and fat loss, is tracking the density of the workout. So for the people that are listening, that would mean the amount of sets and reps you're doing within the same time frame. So if you've got an hour PT session, or you're normally doing an hour of work, then are you actually doing progressively more work in that time period? Yeah. Is that something that you like to program in?
Yeah, definitely. There are a few things that I like to do. So when programming, you supersetting 2 exercises back to back to progress that and make that harder and fit more into that session. You can then move on to like heavy light sets or tri-sets or drop sets or any of those types of things. And throughout that same 60-minute window, you'll be getting way more volume in towards the end of that session in that time.
Yeah, I think there are some challenges with that as well. So just for example, if you're training in a commercial gym environment.
Yes, very true.
Like exercise selection is really important.
Can be hard, yeah.
Can be super hard. You can still do it. You're just not going to take up 3 machines.
You have to be smarter in the programming for a client if that's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's definitely ways around it.
100%. So if you're doing it for your back, you might do a lat pull down with a bent over dumbbell row.
Yeah.
And then you could even throw in some lateral raises or re-delt dumbbell flies. If you're doing a tricep, so then you're only staying in the one machine.
You're not moving around this gym and the studio or whatever. Yeah, taking up space and time as well.
Yeah.
So that takes time.
And then that would technically feel like a more of a cardio workout because you're working for a longer period of time. So if you're just doing a straight set, that might only last 40 seconds, right? 40 to 50 seconds. Whereas if you're doing a heavy light method or a superset or a tri-set, then you might be stretching it out to 90 seconds to even 2 minutes of work.
Yeah, that'll get the heart rate pumping.
Yeah, that's why I don't like doing that style of training. But I don't like it, but I know that it's good for me.
It's hard, but it's good for you. Yeah.
And the same thing though, your body, like anything, your body adapts to it. You do get better as well. And like anything, you can strategically implement those programs. So you might have 1 month where there is more density. You're increasing the density of the workout, and then the next month you're doing more of a normal workout where you're not doing as many sets and reps, so you give your body a rest, and then you can go back and you can keep alternating that way as well.
You can push the load more in those periods as well.
Yeah.
So you're not doing as much, so you can go heavier and rest for longer.
So we also have on the Athletics Your Live app, Hollie, I've written a rapid fat loss program where it's 12 to 16 weeks, and then every 4 weeks is obviously a new program. But from program to program, the density increases. So obviously month 1's the easiest, month 2 is a little bit harder, then month 3 is like the hardest. So it's more of a little bit of probably like an intermediate one. But if you're a big, you can still work your way up, and you can probably do that as well. So you can check that out for an example of increasing the density too. There are also some simple ways that you can do it. Is you can probably easily just reduce the rest time, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Reduce the rest time.
Yep.
Stop talking to your friends in the gym.
Stop scrolling your phone.
Yeah.
So just sitting on the machine, just get straight into it.
Yeah, and that's where holding yourself accountable, because if you're not getting like weight loss or body composition results and you're supposed to finish your workout within 45 minutes to an hour, and let's say you yourself have been doing, taking an extra 30 seconds rest for 50% of your workout, that's where you can make some improvements to get better results as well.
It's so easy to let that time slip too. You got to be so onto it.
Yeah, definitely.
I know from first-hand experience. I'm sure we all do. Yeah.
So there we have tracking your total volume load, paying attention to the density of your workouts. And then the next one is keeping track of how many sets per muscle group you're doing each week. So sometimes you can be doing too little or too much. So you basically want to find the sweet spot. So how you're going to find that out is by tracking whatever your number one goal is, and is it working or not. So then that's another thing. Okay, if I'm trying to lose some body fat and on average I'm doing, let's say, 12 sets per muscle group and I'm not getting to my results, maybe I can increase it to 16 or 18 or even up to 20. Yeah.
Whereas on the other hand, I think if you're training for strength, slightly different. You don't want to be doing too many sets because you're just going to be working it over time, and you want to be able to drop those sets down and push the weight and then use that longer rest period as well. So it just depends what, the client's goal is.
Yeah, and that's where, like, on social media is, you can, there's definitely some studies, you can get hypertrophy results with as little as 10 sets per muscle group, and you can apply the science, right? You can, because the science says this, and then apply it. But what if that's just not getting you results?
Yeah.
Are you going to keep following the science because the science tells you that? But it also says that you can get hypertrophy results with more volume, up to 20 and 25 sets too. Yeah. And that's where I always encourage people, like, don't be afraid to go to the other end of the spectrum and experiment with another style of training, where instead of like low volume training, you might do higher volume training.
And everyone's body reacts differently as well, responds differently. So you just have to find out what works for you. And then if you have been doing one for a certain amount of time, you probably are hitting a plateau and just need to change it up, like Gordon said.
Yeah, and the way that you might do this is you probably don't want to take up the sets per muscle group for all your muscles. You could just do it for a priority muscle group. For the guys, it could just be like chest, back, maybe either legs or hamstrings, whatever that needs development. And same for women. You mentioned to me that you're not doing as much bicep work.
Yeah, I've basically cut out all my bicep training.
Okay.
Not that I was training a lot of biceps, but I was probably hitting them twice a week, which is 8 sets. Plus, using them in other exercises like rows and stuff. So I've just basically cut out all my bicep stuff, and they're just being used as accessories and everything else.
So you can swap and change. So have you replaced the sets you do with biceps for another muscle group?
Triceps and rear delts.
Okay. All right, so you're going to the opposite.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so that's a good way to do it as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so you can focus on certain muscle groups. The last one with advanced results tracking is, because we do a lot of PT sessions here in the studio, and we might talk to clients online as well, is that, like, you just can't be afraid to measure, especially if you do want to train for results and get an outcome with your training. You don't necessarily need to track and measure every day or every week.
No, of course not. Yeah, but every 3-4 weeks, every month at least, whether that's doing a body scan, just tracking your weight or progress photos.
Yeah, the frequency is going to depend on the person's preference on how fast they want to get results. If the deadline's tighter and if you want to make sure that you're progressing on a more of a frequent basis, then you're just going to scan more frequently. Just because you're going to get that feedback a lot faster, the data a lot faster, and then you can make those changes faster as well. Otherwise, if you get a body scan 4 weeks, then maybe we could have made some changes a little bit sooner.
Yeah, for sure.
But there are people who maybe they just enjoy training, they're quite happy with their body composition, so they just don't want to go backwards. So for that person, they might obviously track less frequently. But also, it's not just the numbers. You do want to be able to subjectively track things like your energy levels, your hunger, your sleep, your mood, which is also valuable. Would that be correct?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All those things play a massive part.
So what do you normally ask your clients?
What do I ask my clients?
Yeah, for their subjective feedback.
Just simple questions like, how is your sleep? How are you recovering after each session? Have they been tracking their food? Have they been logging their weights in if they're training on their own, following their own program? Have they been doing their program? Just little simple questions like that.
Yeah.
Keeping them accountable, really.
Keeping them accountable. There was a study where elite athletes, in this particular study, they tracked both their physical training load and subjective feedback, mood, fatigue, soreness, and energy levels. And it obviously turns out combining both the training load as well as the subjective feedback, it gave them better insights as to how to adjust their training and avoid burnout. So, that's a smarter way to do things rather than just taking our advice around the training volume load and just thinking adding sets, and without applying any subjective feedback to things like outside your training. It can maybe not potentially be enough because you're just applying more stress in some cases as well. So, Hollie, is there anything that you'd like to add with advanced tracking things that you'd like to?
No, I don't think so, Gordon. I think you've probably covered basically everything. As long as everyone is tracking either with any of those things that we've spoken about, just to ensure that you're on the right track.
The different things you can apply there: training volume load, the training density, so making sure you're doing enough work or potentially more work within your given time, month to month, and also calculating how many sets you're doing per muscle group, if you're doing too little, too much, or if you need to experiment with that. And also making sure you have some way of tracking and measuring and not being afraid. It can be easier too to have someone just look at the data and then give you guidance on the right things to do as well.
That's where having a coach comes in.
Having a coach, or if you're doing it yourself, just stick to one or two things and then you can slowly learn to get better on what works for your body as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for today's episode. Hopefully you got something practical you can start applying straight away to your training or nutrition.
And if you feel like you need any help putting it all together, the Athletic Studio Live coaching program gives you everything: custom training, personalised nutrition, and real support from a coach who actually cares.
You can start with a 7-day free trial and you can cancel anytime. Just head to the link in show notes and let's get to work.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Athletic Studio Live for daily tips, behind the scenes, and real client wins.
And of course, like, subscribe, and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. We're just getting started.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Train smart, eat well, and take action.
Let's go.